Well, good morning and welcome once again to Elevenses. Sorry, I'm a few minutes late this morning. The cat decided it was breakfast time just as I was about to go on air. Perils of working with animals, isn't that what they say? Right, it's Elevenses number 219. It's Wednesday, the 2nd of March, which means officially we are into the Northern Hemisphere summer. Right now, doesn't look much like it this morning. It's a fairly chilly and damp morning out there. We have quite a few things to cover today. We have ground movements closing Snake Pass potentially for months. More bikes in bus lanes for West Yorkshire, or at least you can ride somewhere if you're up in that part of the world. The former Norton boss Stuart Garner's sentencing was postponed earlier this week. RoadPeace are calling for the replacement of dangerous road infrastructure, but don't go far enough, in my opinion. The DVSA update their A2 test bikes list, but fail to update it with the right bikes, I believe. The Japanese Big Four are combining on hydrogen engines, and I'll be asking if the Voge 650 is too expensive for a Chinese bike. There's a chance to win a track bike from the Yorkshire Air Ambulance. Or to support the Yorkshire Air Ambulance, I should say. And then finally, we'll have a quick look at some of the nonsense that's put around in newspapers as safety information. So grab yourselves a brew and pull up a chair for the next 30 plus minutes while we get on with the show. Now, the first thing I just want to remind you about, in case you've forgotten, and I have mentioned it before, is that tonight's live webcast is going out. It's on group riding. Something I haven't mentioned though is it will stay up online for 72 hours. So if you're worried about missing it live, don't panic. You can catch up later. As long as you can actually get online for the next 3 days, then you can watch the webcast. Now, basically, the idea of this one is to cover group riding. It's the group riding season just starting to get underway. There is promise of warmer weather coming soon, I hope. Ride out season will be underway, and I will say that biking with buddies can be an awful lot of fun. I've had some great experiences on group rides, but I will also admit that some unpleasant experience have happened whilst I have been out and about on with other riders. If it's run well, and the picture there shows one of our group rides from Austria from quite a few years back now, actually. It's a great experience, but it can go horribly wrong. Crashes on group rides are well overrepresented, and if you look at accident stats on group rides, it does actually lead to a lot of fatalities, unfortunately. So that's tonight, 8 o'clock. I'll be looking at not just ways to think about organising your ride if you are a rider on a group ride, but also some things that you should consider if you are organising one. So it'll be both organisers and riders. So if you do get a chance, pop along. There's the link to the ticket booking. The stream is live now. Add yourself to the list. I will get an email out to anybody who books up later today at a moment when I've got a moment to spare. Right, okay, anyway. I'm gibbering a bit this morning, aren't I? So let's try and be a little bit more coherent. Good news for riders in West Yorkshire, where they'll be on the other side of the road from that picture. So let's take that one down. In the Calderdale Council region, in fact, there are moves to open up all bus lanes to power two-wheelers. Now, this decision has now been made, and all the bus lanes in the borough will be open. It follows a study by the West Yorkshire Combined Authority. Now, it does bring the council of Calderdale, which includes bits of Huddersfield, Hebden Bridge, and Pateley Bridge. I think it's sort of that part of the world area I know reasonably well from doing rider training courses up there. It brings the area into line with Sheffield and York, other towns in the region which have already introduced the change. Now, the authority believes that permitting bikes in bus lanes can reduce rider vulnerability, they say, when used properly. So they advise riders to stick to speed limits and to be conscious that vehicles may turn across their path unexpectedly, as it's a new initiative. And they're also, as part of it, warning drivers to be aware that motorcycles will be in bus lanes and to look out for them when turning through a bus lane. What's interesting, really, though, is that the statement from the council considers the move to be a way to encourage people to move more sustainably and to support the council's work in tackling the climate crisis and to reduce carbon emissions. The press release actually says that motorcycles emit less than half the carbon of private cars, and by permitting their use in bus lanes, it can encourage a shift from car use, subsequently reducing congestion. Councillor Jane Scullion, who's the council's cabinet member for regeneration and strategy, she said, by allowing powered two-wheelers such as motorcycles to use bus lanes across the borough, we hope we can encourage a shift away from car use and reduce congestion as well as carbon emissions. That is an incredibly positive statement in favour of motorcycling. It's the sort of statement that the motorcycle industry has used for many years. It's the sort of statement that lobbying groups have also been using for many years. But as far as I can recall, it's the very first time that this particular outcome has been stated so clearly by a council. So I think that's a great step forward. Right, Clive has looked in. Good morning, Clive. Nice to see you. The former owner of Norton Motorcycles, Stuart Garner, was set to appear at Derby Magistrates Court on Monday morning, but his court date was postponed. No reason was given for the delay. Garner, you'll recall, pleaded guilty to 3 charges of illegally investing 11 million into his business from 3 pension schemes for which he was the sole trustee. No firm date has been set for his appearance, but it may be at the end of the month. Okay, so don't forget, you are watching Elevenses, and if you've got any comments, if you've got any questions, anything you want to add, I will try to get back to you during the show if I possibly can. If I can't make it during the show, I will get back to you at the end of it. Now, last time out, I was talking about Vision Zero, you may recall, and how the reduction of speed limits is intended to make crashes survivable. Now, what's often forgotten, because Vision Zero does tend to be seen as a sort of a speed reduction measure, it's not just about slowing riders and drivers down. It's also about focusing on reducing the risks created by the road itself. And one of the most deadly obstructions at the side of the road is the humble steel pole with something balanced on it. An organisation called RoadPeace is calling for all traditional road signs and other poles, such as telegraph poles and also streetlights, to be replaced with more passive structures in a bid, they say, to minimise the damage caused to the vehicle and its occupants in the event of a crash. And they cite the Institute of Highway Engineers, their Sign Structures Guide 2021, which says that if a standard lighting column is hit at moderate to high speed, it is probable a car will suffer serious structural damage. Right, Nick Simmons, who is the CEO of RoadPeace, said there are too many objects at the roadside, and we've supported far too many families whose loved ones have been killed following collisions with trees, lampposts, and other street furniture. He continues that despite the use of seatbelts and airbags, traditional poles and posts can have serious adverse impact on vehicle passengers in a collision. So RoadPeace strongly supports the use of passive road sign or passive signposts and masts. You may be wondering what a passive post is. Well, I had a look and I dug out this particular picture from a manufacturer. That is a passive post. It's passive because it just sits there and doesn't do anything. But the important bit is that it's what's called a wide-based post. So the idea is that by increasing the diameter of the tubing that supports the rest of the pole, the bit that's likely to be hit by a car can be thinner walled, and the whole thing can crumple over when a car hits it. You'll notice that I'm talking about cars a lot here. The fact is that I don't think this thinking goes anything like far enough. The problem is that we have is that it's not just cars that hit poles at the side of the road. As any motorcyclist is well aware, not every road is sitting within an energy absorbing cocoon, and so even low speed impacts with poles and posts can be fatal to a motorcyclist or a cyclist. And I even managed to cut my head wide open on a pole. I stood up, and the waiting time plate, which was strapped to it, was actually fixed too low, and I sort of stepped up straight under it. So the problem for us is that there are one heck of a lot of poles around. We're carrying all sorts of signs on the road: direction signs, warning signs, information signs, um, and so it's not just changing the construction of the sign itself to make it less damaging to car occupants. It's actually about moving some of these signs to less dangerous locations wherever that's possible, and removing some of the less necessary signs altogether. There are ways that information can be conveyed without having to have it stuck on a pole. I know motorcyclists aren't fond of paint on the road, but quite frankly, some of the information that is currently carried on poles could be put onto the road surface on non-slip paint. Now, as I've mentioned before, the conventional black signs, the black and white chevron signs that you'll find on a sharp bend or something like a roundabout, in many places, those steel poles which carry an aluminium plate have actually been replaced by more crash-friendly signs. Typically, you'll find plastic tubing which shatters on impact, or even a rubber sort of sign which actually folds over and bounces back when it's hit. And those are specifically put in place to cater for motorcyclists who crash into them. So that's a good clue, actually, if you're out on the road, if you see these sort of friable plastic signs or the bendy rubber ones, that it's a road where a lot of motorcyclists crash. But frankly, I think it's high time that organisations like RoadPeace stop thinking only in terms of four-wheeled vehicles. There's just one problem. With any initiative like this, there must be hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of steel signs and lampposts scattered around the country. And I very much doubt councils have anything like the budget to even scratch the surface of the problem of replacing them. So don't forget, if you want to catch up with 11s, you can set your timer for 11 o'clock. I'm usually on 11, not 11:03. As I say, it was a cat problem this morning. And it goes out Wednesdays and Sundays, and the show is recorded to so that you can catch it up either here on Facebook, or you can head over to my YouTube channel, where they're probably a little bit easier to find. So, what's in the story? Oh yes, that's right, DVSA. They're the DVSA, Driving and Vehicle Standards Agency. I'm afraid to say they're actually often known as the Double and Variable Standards Agency in the motorcycle training world, thanks to the difficulty of getting straight answers to often simple questions out of them, let alone any guidance on difficult issues. I think I did mention in previous show that the guidance for the new highway code rules on the hierarchy of harm were actually sent to car and bike trainers just a couple of days before the new rules actually came into operation. So effectively after trainers were actually, excuse me, they were after training new riders and drivers how to use them. And one list that caused great hilarity when it appeared some years ago I do apologise, I'll try and get my breath back. One list that did cause some great hilarity was the organisation's catalogue of appropriate bikes for various levels of bike test. You're probably aware that they all require different capacities and different power outputs. I'll try not to choke to death. And this particular machine appeared as being listed suitable for the A2 intermediate test. Now, you probably recognise it as a Brough Superior, not a new one, obviously, because that's far too powerful for the A2 test, but that's the bike from the 1920s. As it's a rare and highly collectible machine, I can only assume that somebody from the DVSA simply went through the boys and girls bike of big bikes and went through it alphabetically and found this machine and then discovered that it fitted the rules. Now, as of yesterday, Tuesday, 1st of March, the regulations on the engine capacity for motorcycles for the A2 intermediate bike test changed. The change to what's technically known as the minimum test vehicle requirement reduces the capacity limit for suitable bikes from 395 cc's to 245 cc's, so just under 250 basically, provided the bike meets other requirements. Now, it must still have a power output between 20 kilowatts, which is 27 horsepower, and odd enough, a Super Dream should be acceptable, and 35 kilowatts, which is 47 horsepower. That's the maximum. And there's also a power to weight ratio, if I remember right. Now, the reason for these changes was said to provide the opportunity to take the test on a lighter, lower, and generally easier to manage machine for those who may have found the bigger 400cc bikes a bit of a handful, and that it would be more representative of the kind of machine that these new riders would be actually buying after passing their test. Now, the DVSA circulated a reminder of the new rules last week and directed trainers, it said, planning to upgrade their motorcycle fleet to read the full guidance and view the updated list of bikes that can be used for the A2 test. Now, the DVSA say they have been given proof that the motorcycles that they list actually meet the rules. So I took a look at the updated list, and yes, lo and behold, the Brough Superior is still listed. Almost the first thing I noticed after that, though, was that the Kawasaki Ninja 250 and 300 are not listed as suitable for the test. Now, that's the Ninja 300, and I'm a bit puzzled here because the 300 puts out 29 kilowatts, which is 38.9 brake horsepower, and the 250 is claimed to be 30 horsepower, 22 kilowatts. So it's slap bang in the middle of the acceptable test specifications. So I really can't see why they're excluded. And continuing down the list, one of the other bikes I expected to see on it was the Yzf R3 Yamaha, and apparently that's not suitable either, even though it seems to drop into the necessary bracket to me. It's a fun little bike, by the way. I rode one for a day in 2018 or 2019, I think it was, actually, in the US. Now, without going back and digging out the consultation document, I can't confirm it, but I seem to recall these were precisely the bikes that were stated as being the sort of things that would be accessible to training schools and new riders. So perhaps the problem is the updated list, because it seems it was actually updated on the 13th of October 2020, which suggests that in fact it's not been updated at all to the revised test standard. I really do think sometimes it would be a good idea if the DFT and the DVSA did talk to motorcycle groups before going to press with important updates like this. So that's my little rant about the DVSA, the Double and Variable Standards Agency. Don't forget, if you enjoy the show, you can always pop over to my coffee page and buy me a much appreciated coffee. Actually, it's tea this morning. But yeah, pop over there. £3 for a coffee will buy you access to for a month to all my back catalogue of Facebook articles as well. So something around 800 of those going up. Right, so where are we now? Well, in the past, I've commented on the big four Japanese manufacturers and their apparent lack of interest in developing electric motorcycles. And there could be a reason. It seems they're further down the line to developing engines that run on hydrogen than I was actually aware. Now, the rationale for this is apparently the fact that there is little available land for onshore wind and solar farms. So the country is actually planning to develop what is being termed a hydrogen economy by importing huge volumes of hydrogen gas. Now, in November 2021, Kawasaki Heavy Industries, the Subaru Corporation, Toyota Motor Corporation, Mazda Motor Corporation, and Yamaha Motor announced that they were beginning discussions on collaborative research into expanding the range of fuel options for internal combustion engines in the quest for carbon neutrality. Now, also in the group are Denso, who will be looking at injector and ignition technology, and Mazda and Subaru are also involved, and it's expected that Honda and Suzuki will join the project, which basically put the big four motorcycle manufacturers working together on the carbon neutral fuel for internal combustion engines. Now, Kawasaki themselves, of course, don't just build motorcycles. They have a long history of working on ships, for example. And this is get the picture up on screen. There it is. That is the Suiso Frontier, and it's the world's first bulk hydrogen carrier. And it recently shipped its first cargo from Australia to Japan. Although its capacity is only 1,250 cubic meters, it's not a huge carrier. It's the first time that pure hydrogen has been transported by ship, and it features a double shell vacuum insulation, it is said, which allows liquid hydrogen to be transported without the ship having to provide any extra cooling. Now, I have to say, I was looking for something a bit more like it was out of Thunderbird, something a little bit more futuristic than that fairly conventional looking vessel. But Kawasaki are also said to be developing the world's first liquid hydrogen fuel, although I'm not quite sure how you make hydrogen fuel. Presumably there's some additives to straight liquid hydrogen. Anyway, the hydrogen, as I say, should be seen sometime towards the end of this year. The two companies will work together to develop new hydrogen engines for use in future motorcycle engines. Now, the bad news here is that this hydrogen that's being shipped from Australia to Japan is actually coming from a rather dirty source. It's actually coming from Australian brown coal, so it's not carbon neutral. So we do have some concerns. We should have some concerns. Now, have a look at this. That is a V8 engine. It's something that Yamaha have been working on. It says they began developing a hydrogen engine for automobiles about 5 years ago. Now, Yamaha are well known for having a tie-up with Toyota, and together they are focused on combustion studies, engine prototypes, and the development of internal components and parts. And this V8 engine has been commissioned by Toyota to run on hydrogen. It's a 5-litre motor. So interesting there to think about what you might get if you chopped 2 cylinders off the end and turned it into a V-twin motorcycle engine. Now, Toyota have been running a hydrogen-equipped engine from a GR Yaris, and that's fitted to one of their Corolla models, and that's actually being raced in a series of endurance races in Japan, and that is operating as a rolling test bed for Yamaha and Toyota. To quote, "We are working towards achieving carbon neutrality by 2050, explained Yamaha Motor President Yoshihiro darker. At the time, motor is in our company name, and we accordingly have a strong passion for and level of commitment to the internal combustion engine. Takeshi Yamada, who's from the Technical Research and Development Center of Yamaha, he said everyone who came to test drive the prototype car would start off somewhat skeptical, but emerge from the car with a big smile on their face at the end. As I watched this, I started to believe that there is actually enormous potential in the characteristics unique to hydrogen engines, instead of simply treating it as a substitute for gasoline. So that's actually really quite an interesting, different perspective on post-petrol transport. Now, the only problem is that if the hydrogen is to be carbon neutral, you can't make it from brown coal, because you're simply burning the coal, but in a slightly different manner. So it's the other issue is that it's not tailpipe emission zero either, a path that the EU and the UK want to go down. Burning any fuel in air creates nitrogen oxides. Right, now, don't forget, where are we? I've forgotten where we are, don't worry. Right, a few years ago, my brother got hold of an ex-training school BMW F650 GS single. Now, I did get to ride it actually on one occasion. I have to say I quite liked it. The prior experience with the original Funduro from decades ago, that bike was anything but fun to ride. Didn't give me high hopes, but it was one of those bikes that turned out to be rather better than the sum of the parts suggested it ought to have been. Now, most people buy BMW for quality, but I'm not sure that many realise that the 650 motor and the 800 twin come from that are both built in China. Yes, it's a German design, but the manufacture and assembly takes place at the Lonsin plant in the Far East. And Lonsin happened to be the parent company of their own motorcycle brand. And not too surprisingly, Voge have now utilized the now discontinued BMW engine in their own bike, which is the Voge 650 DSX. And there it is in front of you. So the engine, it's basically the proven 652 liquid cooled single cylinder. It's an A2 compliant motor in this bike. It produces 47 horsepower, 44 pound-feet of torque at a lowly 5,500 RPM. It gets a 5-speed gearbox and chain drive. The motor also features an internal balance shaft and is triggered by Bosch fuel injection, so it's E5 compliant. Now, in the BMW, the bike eventually arrives at a top speed of about 105, although I have to say it's much more comfortable road and sort of moderate motorway speeds. But the BMW is relatively low gearing, does actually make the most of the torque to offer quite punchy power delivery. It's quite a fun bike to ride around sort of the B roads, but it still accelerates at a rate that's perfectly capable of dealing with urban riding and motorway traffic. Now, I can't imagine the Voge will be very much different, but clearly what it does get is totally new looks and a very sharp looking half fairing there, with an adjustable screen and LED lights. Now, what else does the bike get? Well, it gets the sort of 110, 80, 19-inch front wheel and a 150, 70, 17-inch rear, sitting on spoked wheels. I'll come to that in a moment, actually. Nissan provides the brakes. It's a floating disc at the front, apparently. The rear ABS is switchable. A KYB provide the suspension, upside-down forks. There's a rear monoshock too. No word on adjustability. I would imagine it's probably only got basic adjustability. But you do get a bash plate under the engine. Fuel capacity is fairly decent, 18 litres, that's 4 gallons, so you should get at least 250 miles out of the tank, I would have thought. Seat height is quite low for what is actually a sort of fairly humpy bike, really, isn't it? 33.5 inches, and the high bars give it that conventional adventure bike riding position. The pillion is a bit perched up on that rear seat, but at least it's a decent size. Weight's not quoted on the UK website, but it does. It is said to be 192 kilos or 423 pounds elsewhere. Hopefully that's fueled up. Otherwise, you can add another 15 or 16 kilos to it. That's not bad considering you also get engine protection bars and a rear luggage rack as standard. The sequential LED indicators are less useful, I think. The dash does give you some useful information: gear, coolant temperature, average MPG. You also get conventional Bluetooth now, so you get caller ID if your phone is connecting rings, and you get a USB port for keeping your phone charged up. The dash also displays tyre pressure, but that's not quite as useful as it seems, in my opinion, because the bike's actually fitted with tube tyres. And this is the one downside, really, of a bike which would otherwise, I think, be a very practical road bike. Now, I know serious off-roaders prefer tubes, but the vast majority of these bikes will be ridden by road riders, and probably, given the price point, they're probably aiming at the less experienced end of the market too. So the Voge does fill the hole left in BMW's range since they discontinued their own 650, but the tubed wheels are the one thing that would make me step away from this bike. Frankly, living in London, I pick up far too many nails and screws. And the problem is when a tube fails, it fails almost instantly. So the pressure monitoring system won't give you any early warning there's a puncture. And 70 miles per hour on a totally flat rear tyre is not great for control. So tubes on the road long past their sell-by date, in my opinion. There's one other problem: the price. The bike is a fairly steep £6,399. Now that actually makes it £50 more expensive than Honda's own CB500X. Okay, that bike is built in Thailand and not Japan, but it has proven to be a reliable motorcycle. Go up just over £1,000 and you can get a brand new NC750X from the same company. If you really want a BMW, then the base model F750 GS gets you the much more powerful twin-cylinder motor, and that's at 8,430. So basically just over £2,000 more expensive. Now, you do get a rack as standard, but if you want the optional aluminium top cases and side cases with fitting kit, then that'll empty your wallet to the tune of another £899. And that really is pricing along the European lines. There are other bikes out there, other Chinese machines with fittings like this, which are much, much less expensive. So that would take the fully equipped price to 7,300. And I really think that's probably too much to tempt any but the very few riders to actually take the plunge on an almost unknown Chinese brand, even if the motor is BMW derived. And so maybe that's why there is actually an introductory offer on the Voge UK website right now to include the full luggage set. So that's the pannier rack, top box and panniers, free of charge whilst stocks last. That does make for a fully equipped machine and a rather more palatable price. As well as the blue, you can pick up the Voge in red and black. Right, okay, very quickly, if you're looking for a track bike, then you can head over to the Sorry Mate site. Here's the link, and check out their raffle that they're running at the moment to win a track-oriented GSXR 600. It's the first prize in a raffle that supports the Yorkshire Air Ambulance. It's an ex-race bike. It's been fully rebuilt. The engine's been stripped and refurbished. The frame's powder coated. Race bodywork has been painted up in Yorkshire Air Ambulance colours. And to make it really, really worth going for, you get the signatures of racers including Maria Costello and Carl Fogarty all lacquer coated onto the bodywork. If you don't win the top prize, there are other prizes including full race leathers, track day, tyre warmers and a power washer. Of course, you do sign away your life with your email address to Sorry Mate as you consent to receiving other notifications from them, but I suppose there's always the subscribe button. Right, okay, I'm running a bit over the time today. Actually, I hadn't realised I'd got so much to cover. I know I started a little late, but excuse me. Very coffee this morning. Right, okay, so have a look at this. This is a road which has done the rounds of the news just recently. It's in Wiltshire near Lynham. It's the B4069. And according to the local paper, it says it looks like it's been hit by an earthquake and that it was torn up by unexplained underground movements. And the quote, dramatic pictures show the B4069 near Lynham in Wiltshire totally buckled after the ground underneath it slipped, but no one knows why or how. Here's the same view from the opposite direction, which in fact possibly makes it even more dramatic how damaged the road actually is. Now, an emergency road closure was actually put in place on February the 17th. And the councillor said it could be closed for up to 12 months, and it could cost hundreds of thousands, even up into the millions, to fix it. There's significant damage, as you can see. They're waiting for geotechnical specialists to determine what happened. Now, it's not the only road that's actually been closed after the surface buckled. The biker's favourite, the A57 Snake Pass, has been closed by 3 landslides on a mile-long section between Glossop and Lady Bow Reservoir. Now, the road is actually a major connecting route, connecting Sheffield and Manchester, which are 2 of the largest cities, of course, in the north of England. And that road too is likely to be closed for weeks. Now, the road passes through the heart of the Peak District National Park. It's a single carriageway, and if you've ridden it, you'll know that it's what's described as a sinuous nature makes it challenging and fun to ride. Now, being a science geek, of course, I did a bit of background investigation, and I discovered a site written by a geologist with a specialist in landslips. And he was aware of both slips, of course, and he noted 2 factors. Both areas apparently have natural ground instability, and this is actually down to the way that the soil material that makes up the landscape there, it was actually deposited at the end of the last ice age, and it's unstable. And particularly sensitive to heavy rain, which of course both areas have experienced in the last couple of weeks. Now, historically, both areas have had landslips in the past, going back thousands of years. The evidence is there in the geology. So far from it being a mystery, as the opening story from the newspaper suggested, it's simply geology in action. Yes, in this case, the geology has a timescale of around 10,000 years, but that's what's happening. It's simply geology, which is not fixed. Right, okay, I'm going to skip the final portion because I've already overrun a little bit. So thank you once again for looking in. Don't forget the presentation tonight. If you can possibly make it, do pop along. You've still got a few hours to sign in. I'll get the invites out by about 6 o'clock. So thank you very much indeed for popping along. I'd just like to finish up by saying that there will be the next full Science of Being Seen presentation goes out on Wednesday, the 6th of April. And on Wednesday, the 4th of May, looking even further ahead, I'll be looking at how you can overtake and still arrive alive, given that overtaking mistakes are one of the top killers of motorcyclists. And that's it for another show. And I'd just like to say that my thoughts, as are many others, I'm sure, are for all those currently suffering in the Ukraine. So thanks for tuning in, and hopefully see you on Sunday. And don't forget, if you are out there riding, do keep it shiny side up.